I could see it open up. Guess not.
Still another half.
Are we playback?
Shoot you in.
Sounds good. All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac. Feels like it's been forever since Matt and I have talked, but it's only been about 90 minutes here. We went from NFL 2-game slate to NBA 3-game slate. A couple games in LA have been postponed due to the fires, along with Atlanta, because there is inclement weather and ice in Atlanta. And man, if you've ever seen in Atlanta, they have like about a dozen snowplows, and even the slightest of snow or ice can really muck things up.
Those southern cities do not handle snow well.
Yeah, so people are like, oh, they should just go to the game or the whatever, and it's like, well, in our litigious society, somehow someone would blame the Hawks organization if there was an accident because they were going to the game, and yeah. It's just not safe. We just normally don't get 3 games canceled all at once. Outside of a hurricane, we have seen some East Coast inclement weather before knock out a few hockey games and a couple of NBA games, but different coasts and entirely different reasons. So it's almost like we're getting ready for baseball because, the Hot Stove League is opening up here, and that's where you get the weird canceled games. All right. I wonder if we're going to I wonder how many people are going to watch this one. It's halftime, so that's coinciding nicely.
Yes.
Good call. Couple hundred people here in chat. Let's see if we put this blast out on.
I was wondering the same thing about how many people were going to be watching or playing NBA tonight, but the fact that it coincides like perfectly with halftime is nice. Like that is nice.
And buy me like 90 seconds here. What were your thoughts on the early game?
The football game? Well, that's
football game.
Yeah. Man, tough watch, to be quite honest. CJ Stroud looked awful up until that last drive. Deontay Johnson not really playing has been disappointing. It's been a tough watch. I mean, Houston being in the lead in this game is shocking. I mean, the Chargers, it feels like they should be up at least a touchdown. They're not. They haven't been able to capitalize on, a couple errors by the Texans. So I think Houston wins this game. And I think Mixon might get there in the second half. He's not going to have like a massive upside game, but on this type of slate, if he scores, he might be optimal.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. In the meantime, we've got our 3-gamer here. I've got some of my key information up. We have people in football chat not happy that I did an all-channel blast, but hey, maybe I'll throw in some of my NFL late game thoughts since I spent 3 hours writing an article. It's the least I can do to wrap up a show here. We can have Matt ask me questions. But in the meantime, looking at our basketball slate, we've got a 7 o'clock game, an 8 o'clock game, and then we are getting a 10 o'clock game here out in Portland. We do not yet have any of our starting lineups. However, for Toronto and Detroit, we know that Akbaji is going to be in, as is Bruce Brown. That kind of extends the Toronto depth there, but they are a team that is still basically worst, no matter how you cut it. Full season, 15 games, 10 games, 7 games. They are the worst or bottom 3 in defensive efficiency, which makes us happy as DFS gamers. Akbaji missed the last game. Let's see what happened. He got hurt 2 games ago with the back issue. And then we've seen Bruce Brown He also sat out the last game. He has played in just 5 games so far this season. He's playing about 20 minutes or just shy of 20 minutes per game. So that is important to note there. On the Tim Hardaway side, that's actually important for Detroit because his minutes, which have increased with Jaden Ivey being lost for the season, he had Hardaway has been I think it was in the upper 20s for those 5 games. If he's out, then that is more minutes that can disperse to the likes of Asar Thompson.
He's the only player on the injury report on this slate,
Is he the last one? Well,
which is
DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams. Come on, let's not cast
oh yeah,
aspersions about players
sorry.
that are borderline invisible.
No,
Do they ever play?
You're right. You're right. I'm wrong. You're handsome. I'm ugly.
Wait,
all that.
clip that. I'm just going to put that on a loop, and it'll be good. It'll be good. 'Cause I don't get to hear that here at home. It's usually you're wrong. You're a dick.
Well, either way, there are not many players on the injury report tonight, which is weird for NBA.
Consequence. Yes, players of consequence, almost none, which is bizarre here. So let me take a look at Hardaway because I know I wrote that one up. So he had been playing almost 32 minutes per game in the 4 games before he was out. That's above his 27 minutes per game. So that is important on a slate like this. Producer Michael was asking us, what happens when things are built out for a 6-game slate? Well, technically 5, because DraftKings knew that the Atlanta game was out for a 5-game slate, and then you lose 2 of the games. It's interesting here. You don't really feel the pinch quite as much on DraftKings and now FanDuel because of the positional flexibility. Previously, we would have on FanDuel because even when they were running normal back in the day before they did multi-position eligibility for those 4 or 5 seasons, you would have like no good shooting guards or no good small forwards or whatever it was. I was building out teams on Yahoo, of course, because I like to play on the secret site over there. The only tough part there wasn't any really good small forwards. So you're looking at the likes of, do I want to play Danny Avdia? Do I want to play, Tobias Harris? And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to skip both of them. And then you're like, I have just enough to put one of them in my utility slot. And they're the next 2 best plays. So even if you're skipping them there, you can circle around. Malakar, I see he's out there with the jokes. No, just handing that out. And I said, I see Ice Cold says, who is it that says 1 inch? Brandon Bagwell says 1 inch. If only it could do that much damage. I think you could still poke an eye out with 1 inch. You'll have to see. You'll have to see here. But all right. So let's kind of look at this. We're going to kind of ramble a little bit because we got plenty of time, not a lot to talk about here. But if we look at thoughts,
you ramble? No,
I got all sorts of time. You worried about this?
I could never see you rambling.
Hold my coffee. We're gonna keep this one going. No, I actually have some nice dinner here that's going to be ready at 7:01. So if we finish earlier, that's good for me. So in looking at our stars here, we start to look at Scotty Barnes. We look at a few of the other players, but there's no screaming value that makes this a stars and scrubs night. So we're to producer Mike's point, we're going to have some decisions here. This feels a little closer to what DFS used to be for NBA back before players started resting the first week of the season. So that I think will make it kind of fun. But what do you kind of like here from Toronto and Detroit?
Yeah, so to your point about there isn't that value, there also isn't the studs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, only Cade Cunningham priced above 10K now. Jaren Jackson, the next highest priced player, and he's too expensive with Memphis healthy. So for me, as far as Detroit and Toronto goes, a bunch of good plays in this game. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I'm just finishing a run on the Sims right now, and as far as my exposures go, the guy I'm getting the most of is Jalen Duren, 5,500, really cheap price tag, coming in at 50% of my lineups. Cunningham, 40%. So a lot of those two guys. Toronto is a little bit tougher to get to because they're healthy and all priced up, and they all kind of eat into each other, but still small slate. So getting 25% Barrett, where the field's getting 14. Barnes, a little bit under the field, getting around 25%. Total 23%. Quickly 20%. So getting more to the Detroit side. Mostly Cunningham and Duran. Those are my two favorite plays from this game. How about you?
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense. So Cade Cunningham stands out very nicely. So former number one pick in the draft. I'm blanking this. I think this is his fourth season, if not his fifth season, fourth season. So he is averaging a career high 35.6 minutes per game. And what that is enabling him to do is he's setting career best literally across every counting stat. 24.3 points, 6.6 rebounds, 9.3 assists, almost a full block, almost a full steal. And even better, his field goal shooting is up as well. His career rate is about 44% from the field. He's almost at 46 this season. And then from three-point range, he's shooting about 38%. For his career, he's 33%. So that's enabling him to sort of support that five-figure salary, which we've seen him get from time to time throughout this year. And then at one point, he actually, I think it was about 10 days ago, if not 2 weeks ago, he was second in the league. He was the only other player over 10 assists per game. Of course, Trae Young still leading the league with around 12 per game, but Cunningham was just up over 10. Now he's back down a little bit there. So he is pretty good. You mentioned Duran. So the interesting thing about him was when you start to look at the fantasy point per dollar decision points, he looks really good against the remaining centers that we have here. And that's a nice saving. So I was surprised his popularity kind of is a little down from where I thought it would be. But, more position flexibility on DraftKings and FanDuel. He's going to be my center for sure on Yahoo. The only knock we have against him is that Isaiah Stewart is lurking. So Duran typically gets the way things kind of have shaked out is like a 26 to 28 minute edge, 20 and change go to Stewart. But we could see Duran get more. The other thing we're seeing with Detroit this year is why are they playing Hardaway Jr.? Why did they go get Tobias Harris? It was because they wanted some veteran presence there to help the youngsters because they're not tanking this year. They're actually going to see what they have and what they can do. So it's those guys aren't playing empty minutes. And at the beginning of the season, we saw Hardaway, playing barely half the minutes. But the point is he's there in the locker room, the rotation, because kind of, hey, here's what it takes, to be in the league for as long as I've been. But when they're shorthanded, he's been getting the more minutes. I'd like to see those go, ideally to Asar Thompson, who missed 2 games with an illness. Prior to that, he had a really good game with a bunch of stocks, steals, and blocks. So that's in his wheelhouse. I did take the under on his 17.5 PRA earlier today. I didn't go see where that was now, but his minutes are kind of all over the place on a short slate for DFS purposes. Yeah, we can take both sides of that. We can take his under there, but we can also, accept hey, maybe his fantasy points come via blocks and steals, and we're happy, and we win both of these wagers. So those were the guys there. And then Malik Beasley. So Beasley has seen his playing time increase over the last 3 games. Since he moved into the starting lineup. He has gone almost 29 minutes, 33, and then 36. So he'll lose a couple minutes when Hardaway is back, but he was someone that was coming off the bench, but now seems to be kind of part of with Ivy out, part of the offense, the first 5, because they want his offense in there and they can expand his minutes. So while it's sad to see Ivy out for the year, it is helping consolidate some of the production here. So those are kind of my overarching thoughts there on the Detroit side. When we go to the other side, Barnes, Barrett, quickly, those guys are all fine for tournaments. Pirtle, as you mentioned, he seems pretty solid here. He just doesn't take enough shots. In his last 5 games, he's averaging 32.5 minutes, but just under 10 field goal attempts per game. But he's making 70 or 75% of them. So he's dunking it. he's in the rim. He's by the cylinder at all times for his points. It'd be nice to see him get a little bit more, but he still, is doing adequate, approaching double-digit rebounds most games, and then he makes up for it for the the blocks and the steals there. So he's the guy I like. I'm okay with those, the other three, Barnes, Barrett, and quickly, just kind of feathering in throughout the lineups. But that's mostly what we have here from the first game. No screaming values because no injuries at this point. Anything else you want to mention on that?
No, not really. I'm with you. Detroit looks like the better side. Toronto in tournaments looks good, but they're expensive. And there are good players on this slate, even though there's only 3 games.
All right, on to the next game here. We have Memphis at Minnesota. This is starting at 8 o'clock, so an hour after contest lock. Memphis brought everybody back who was on the injured list with the exception of Marcus Smart. I had kind of thought that somebody was going to get the night off or somebody would be banged up here. Nobody's on the injury report. Would it be a complete shock if they, somehow, excuse me, Desmond Bain or one of the other players are just like, yeah, you're okay. We're going to give you a break. But what that does is that takes the likes of Conchar out. Like, I don't even think he played in the last game. It weakens a lot of their, the Jake Laravia types, etc. It makes it hard to get overly excited about any of their guys. They were back in mostly full minutes. This is another team that you're like, how are they, where are they? How are they doing so well? They have the fourth to fifth best record in the Western Conference, even though they've been hurt all year. So they're definitely trying. Do you have anything from Memphis that you like?
Yeah, this game looks good, mostly from the Minnesota side because Memphis is healthy. So I'm not getting a ton of Memphis. Morant at like 25%, but he's a lot higher owned than that. So I'm under on him. And after that, Bain, around 10%, a little bit higher than the field. Memphis looks like maybe the worst team on the slate because of the price tags and because they're fully healthy. Minnesota looks like probably the best team because of their price tags. They're also healthy. Every team on this slate is healthy, but Memphis is priced for guys to be out, like I mentioned with Jaren Jackson earlier. So tough to make strong cases for Memphis. I like the Minnesota side a lot, though.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I am as well. It was the whole cast of characters coming back here that have really tightened things up for Memphis. So one of the ones I just missed out on was the under on rebounds for Jaren Jackson Jr. But following Eric Lindquist, I took the over on Morant points and the under on I can't think of that poor planning here. Their forward who averages about 10 points a game. I took the under on that one for him, not Laravia. Hull?
Aldama?
Hull? No, Hull, I think it is, or whoever is that for Memphis.
Oh, Huff.
Thank you. So he slipped. Jalen Huff slipped completely out of the mix there. So even when people are coming back, there are ways here to take advantage of that. In the DFS or the sports wagering world. And that's something that's very helpful that we have here at Stokastic with our many different ways to find advantages and use the different knowledge or information that we are seeing in these spots to be able to help monetize that, which is something always important. So it doesn't matter if it's coming to you through sports wagering or the pick'em sites, or best ball, or even DFS, right? Put that all in the same bucket, and then having those different opportunities to where you can gain enough advantages and disperse these things out enough. It allows you for a more steady increase, which is how you build your bankroll without putting too much at risk there. So it turns out that perhaps Karl-Anthony Towns meant more to the Timberwolves than anybody thought. Does that kind of a surprise there for you? That and the regression of Rudy Gobert, I guess. But this has been a surprise. Anthony Edwards got his team, but he is kind of and he was kind of complaining a little bit about not having enough talent around him. Feels like you can't have your cake and eat it too. But did you know, Matt, over the last 4 games, he's averaging a completely unsustainable 39 minutes, 25 field goal attempts, working out to almost 36 points, 6.3 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.3 steals. He does have 2 60 fantasy point games in this stretch per DraftKings, scoring 58 plus per FanDuel scoring there. You can build out lineups with Edwards and Cunningham. What are your thoughts here on the Ant-Man?
Ant looks great recently since they put DiVincenzo in the starting lineup. Ant's been playing more point guard, and he's just been on a roll. He's finally priced up a little bit, but it's not enough. Um, he's my second highest exposed player on the slate. Randall's my third. Gobert's my fifth, and my highest is Jaden McDaniels at 4K. So, ton of Minnesota here. They look like by far the best team on the slate to pair with the guys we like from Detroit, and then there's some Miami and Portland pieces that are in play. So, looks like a lot of my lineups will be heavy on the Wolves here.
So what are your thoughts on Dante DiVincenzo? Was he just kind of in a slump? Was this, I mean, he was extremely hot and effective last year from downtown when he made like 40% of his threes, but he has just completely disappeared this season. Do you think it's going to be the change in role? Was he just in a slump? What does the Matt insight feel about this, or the gut feel?
I think it just kind of maybe took him a little while to adjust to his new surroundings. He's talked about how weird it was to get traded right before camp. And yeah, I think he's starting to play better now into the starting lineup. Seems to have brought out the best in Ant. So we'll see where it goes from here. I think they're still a scary team, even though they haven't played well to start the season.
Yeah, so if we look at his three games here where he's starting, he's averaging, doing some quick math, about 27 or so, 28 minutes per game, taking 11.3 field goal attempts. He is averaging almost 8 of those, and 8 in those 3 games from behind the arc. He has contributed, couple rebounds here and there, a couple assists here and there with some spike games, and then 5 steals as well. So that is kind of has him popping up just a little bit. But if you had not noticed, he did rejoin the starting rotation. And what that is doing to help him out is it's giving him another 4 to 5 minutes per game over him coming off the bench. And something like that, when it doesn't get accounted for in a player's points, that's a good 15 to 20% increase in their potential fantasy opportunities there from a volume perspective, getting that extra time. And that's sort of what you're seeing here. Those 3 games, he'd only started 2 other ones. Otherwise, his 30, I forget, he had 30 or 31 games off the bench for the rest of those. So he's been kind of interesting. We've seen some Naz Reid up and down season here. Rudy Gobert just been incredibly disappointing from a DFS standpoint. You can still look to him in some of the pick'ems or the sports wagering markets, but I really don't want him, the Stifle Tower, if you will. I don't really want him in my DFS lineups because he is also someone that definitely does not look for his own shot. What else? You got any good things to say about Randall here? Or
I got good things to say about Randall and Gobert. I mean,
okay, talk about Gobert. I just shit all over him.
Just because he doesn't look for his own shot, I'm not arguing that. That doesn't make him any less viable for DFS purposes. Like, he's playing more minutes recently. We know he can put up, when he gets the minutes, he's shown upside, and he's like the cheapest he's been all season, despite playing, decent lately. His price has fallen all the way down to 5,400. His average tag on the year is over 6,500. You're buying him at like his nut low, and there isn't that much center opportunity cost tonight. So, yeah, I think that he looks fine. Like, I don't love him, but I don't dislike him either. And then Randall's just a price thing. Like, he's more volatile than you'd like, but 7,200 is just a cheap tag on him in most scenarios. And in what should be a competitive game, Randall looks good. I personally like Gobert more, but only center eligible. It helps Randall that he's power forward eligible, and you got to spend your money somewhere. So Randall, I'm getting about 50%. He's around 50% owned. Makes sense to me.
All right. I guess the Duran being there is really clouding my judgment today, but
I do prefer Duran, but I like both.
Yeah, but I'm the chalk donkey, right? I'm the everyman. So no, Gobert, never again. Yes. All right. So let me see here. I want to talk a little bit about Underdog because they, they're hooking us up here. They are technically the presenting sponsor of the show. If you find the link in the YouTube chat or in the YouTube description below us here, you can get signed up there. They'll do a $250 deposit match. It's a 50% deposit match up to $250. So if you put in 500, then you, my friends, will get that opportunity to get $250 in cash that comes out of your account first. It also, that sort of ties in. It ties into the actually it's up to $1,000 in bonus cash with your first deposit if you go in on the link join page here. So we talked about that. I think that one might be going away in a little while. So those 11 sites that we have out there, that if you sign up and join, you can get up to depending on how many of those you join, you can get a month of your choice of any sport, all access sims for that particular sport. You got to follow the instructions on the page. You got to use the link. That's step one. Step two, once you have made the your deposit, you need to make your first wager, your pick 'em card, whatever it is, it'll tell you on that page. And then when that is settled, send a screenshot of that welcome email and that settled wager to support@stokastic.com and tell us which sport you would like 1 month of the Sims package for. We'll hook you up. Say you sign up for 4 of them, you can stack them, you can split them up. Say you want 1 NFL, 3 NBA, we'll make that happen for you. But that is the Stokastic link join. But also slide in there with Underdog if you haven't done there. I did a few best ball drafts here. I'd like to play the Underdog Pick'em, the playoff best ball drafts. I did a boatload of season-long drafts. I did not win $1 million, but we had someone in our Slack who did win $1 million. Check that out. That is the Stokastic link join, in particular, the Underdog link. All right. So are you giving the nah wave to Nas?
I think he's fine on this slate, but the salary isn't really needed. So I think he's a fine play. Always has upside. If you're not playing Randall, then Nas looks better for sure.
All right. You know who looks better? The Texans. They're up 10-3. Yikes.
10-6, but yeah.
Oh, 10-6. Sorry, I meant to say they scored another 3. They are now up 10-6. CJ Stroud. Thank you. I went and I bet the overs on every quarterback's rushing yards and put it in a giant parlay just for $1. I think it's
a big run.
It's one for like $1,100, and then I did some mixing and matching because someone in our chat was asking me what to do. What are the overs?
Big play Collins, 41 yards to Collins.
Oh wow. What they said, what are the wagers you like? And I should have mentioned that one. Now you need to look at some of the guys, I mean, Herbert hasn't taken off and run yet, but it's the playoffs. So this is where you see, the Mahomes, Herbert, some of those guys who don't run a lot. This is the end of the season if they're not going to win. So they tend to take more chances in the playoffs. And a lot of these were reasonable, like 12.5 for Stroud, 11.5. Darnold's around the same spots. Those are ones you can get. Jordan Love, I liked it over 4.5 yards. He is capable of running. He doesn't do it all the time, but this would be the perfect time for him to do it. Just keep in mind for players like Jared Goff, heel downs count against them in these. So pay attention.
Turnover,
all right.
Fumble, Mixon.
Oh, the dream's over. Collins already
I
had
think
100 yards.
Yeah, I wasn't watching, but they did turn it over.
Just a reminder why they always put the South game on first on Saturday afternoon, because it's always this kind of game. No matter who plays, it seems like it's always this. 10-3.
Oh, I swear to God, as soon as you saw who made it, you're like, oh, Texas is the first game. Houston's the first game. And they have been in the past. Chargers have been several times, or the Saturday night game, even back before the
Titans
expanded.
The Colts, the teams.
New York Jets. These are the teams we get on the Saturday games. Oh, I bet at this point the Jets would kill to be in the postseason, but that is not the case. Anything? Yeah, Joe. Joseph Ramirez says, yeah, always the AFC South winner. Yeah, it's preordained. It's just like, yeah, sorry, this is where you're going. Anything else from this game, or shall we hit our final game, our nightcap that does not tip off until 10 o'clock, 2 hours after the first two games?
Let's hit it.
All right. Jimmy Butler is probably watching this games tonight. I mean, he doesn't have anything else to do since he is not with the team. We have Tyler Harrow, who is available. Kevin Love off the injury report. He's been out for a bit. Let's see. We just got confirmed that Tim Hardaway is going to play tonight. Most likely will start. He was dealing with that sore back. But we'll have that 29 minutes until lock, so no worries on that one. Josh Richardson, doesn't matter. He's not really playing. He's questionable. DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams, both questionable. One of them will probably play. Donovan Clingan is back in action. I can't remember why he missed the last game. But between the three of those guys, two of them will probably be around. But Jeremy Grant is out for Portland. So Portland going against Miami, a 219 implied game total here. 4.5-point favorites are Miami coming into this. I would say, what do you like without Jimmy Butler there? But what he's only played in 2 of the last 11 games or something like that. So we kind of know what we're getting. Rozier, you're going to get Jaime Jaquez is intriguing. A wild card, I guess, is Robinson. What are you liking here from the Miami side?
I love Jaquez. Monster second half last time out. He had that monster game against Sacramento a couple games ago.
The triple double in the double overtime game.
Yeah, but he was already a monster in regulation. I mean, he had 40 some fantasy. He had like 45 or 46. I think he might have had the triple double in regulation. So I don't even care about the extra whatever cookies he got. I just think he's good, and he fills up the stat sheet. So he's my favorite play from this game. I'm a little bit discouraged by Bam's minutes right now. I think he's a good GPP play. He's not going to be highly owned, and on a 3-game slate, you're telling me Bam's going to be around 10% owned. I can dig it, but man, the minutes are a concern. His production hasn't been great, so I like Jaquez a lot. Rozier has been dreadful since going over to Miami, and with Butler out, it's not like he's been much better. So, at 5,100, he's just a GPP play for me. Hero is pricey, 8,800. He can get there, but man, it's tough when you're 8,800 and you project for 40 fantasy points. So, on a slate like this, 3-gamer, you can take shots on Hero, but man, it's tough to prioritize that type of projection at that price tag. So, for me, it's Jaquez is the only priority. Everyone else is just GPP, viable from Miami. And then we'll get into Portland after you speak on Miami.
All right. Well, Rozier he got old. Got old. It happens to everybody. He's going to be 32 before the playoffs here. It's a long time ago from when the Boston days were his best days, right? Is that kind of what you agree? Yeah, never
easily. Fun fact, he is from about 15 minutes from me, and his agent is someone I grew up with.
Is Shaker Heights by you?
It is right by me. That's where he's from.
I did not.
He went to Shaker. Scary Terry went to Shaker.
Ah.
Did you know that?
I knew he was connected with Shaker Heights because I remember that independent movie on Project Greenlight way back in the day. It was the Battle of Shaker Heights, and Shia LaBeouf was one of his first or kind of the first thing he did or something like that. And then one of the kids from She's All That, the goofy guy who was the best friend of Laney Boggs. God, She's All That was so good. 10 Things I Hate About You. Yeah, there were shows that I thought were those were good shows to watch when you were hungover. What was that, Mike?
I said, Matt, you don't know Cooper Flagg's agent, do you?
Who's his agent?
I don't know, but that would be nice. I've been sitting here with these canceled games streaming.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Cooper Flagg not going to be in Philadelphia. I'm sorry. All the Photoshops are not going to help here. So yeah, I think the Miami's a good mix and match. Good call out on Bam. We would have expected, this would be the perfect time for him to really start showing out and doing, what he can do. But he's just seems to be expending more of the energy on the defense, etc. And just with Jaquez and Tyler Hero, I guess would be the other guy I like here, sort of assuming some of those secondary ball handling duties here. He hasn't picked up as much as he normally does when Jimmy Butler is out. That kind of transitions us into a super chat here from Corey Shea. He has a 3v3 here with Hero, Duran, and Quickly, or Sharp, Gobert, and Scotty Barnes. So I lean towards the first one here because of everybody on that. Duran is my favorite player. Hero is probably my second. Barnes would be third. I'm going to give some thoughts here on Shaden Sharp. I think I said Shannon. I'm sorry. The football's on my mind. Shaden Sharp in there. Quickly is hit or miss. I'm still going to lean towards the first one there. It's a good question, but I'm really coming down to liking two of my three favorite players are in this six are Hero and Duran. So that's pushing me towards that route. Do you have a different thought because your bestie Gobert is in the second?
Yeah, I don't love Gobert all like that, but compared
But you
to
just
maybe.
said you and Gobert, a little kissing. Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
hey, he's got a pretty nice salary, so I mean, I'm available. Yeah, I think it's a pretty even 3 for 3 there. Hard for me to really have a strong take. Barnes and Hero are similar. Their Barnes is 8,900 and projects for 41 fantasy points. Hero is 88 and projects for 40. Duran and Gobert, like the same thing. And then it was Shadon, and who was the other one?
Sorry, Shaden, Gobert, and Barnes, and then Hero, Duran, and Quickly. So Quickly versus.
So I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's very, very even to me. I really don't have a strong take on either side there.
All right. So the fun thing, because I was trying to figure out how Shaden Sharp keeps bouncing between, below 30 and basically 40 fantasy points per game. And it's rebounding. He has just had some, for a guard, some absurd rebounding games, 6 or 7. He's got 8 in 2 of the last 3. So that's really what has kind of been pushing him over the edge, because he's averaging, about, let's be generous and say like 1.3 blocks and steals combined there. He's getting close to 3 to 5 assists per game, but the real wild card has been rebounding, because sometimes he gets 3, 2, 3, 5, 4, and then other games 8, 6, 7, right? So that seems to be his differentiator. His minutes have been relatively consistent in the mid 30s. So I think that's kind of what we're going to see here. And then he's getting a consistent 16 to 19 field goal attempts per game. So I do like him, but it's that he's a good way to say it. He's our preferred tournament type play. When everything falls into place, he's going to pop for 40, 45 fantasy points. When things are going sideways, his shot's not dropping, he can easily be in the low 20s. And that keeps him at a very palatable salary, which gives us that point per dollar upside when things are really going his way, because he does. We haven't we haven't seen his super upside yet. But let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about his last 11 games, he has his best are 42, 49, 43, 40, and 38 fantasy points. Those are all nice scores for a slate like this. So I think that's what gives him a fair amount of appeal here. I like Denny Abdia. He is sort of the jack of all trades. He doesn't look for his own shot enough. He is an above average rebounder, which is nice, but he makes the extra pass, which kills his assists, right? Because he's willing to swing things around or set people up. If he got hockey assists, he would be really, really good. I enjoyed his time with the Washington Wizards. Now he's in Portland. He just, hey, whatever they need for that night, that's what he's going to morph into. So, he is someone that's interesting, but he can, have games where he's doing everything the coaches want, and it's just not showing up in the box score or for DFS purposes, which doesn't really help us. Is there any of the tertiary options there on Portland that you want to call out?
So I like, with no Jeremy Grant and starting, Denny is viable for sure. If Aiton's out, Denny looks even better. I'm already getting to a bunch of Klingon and Scoot Henderson coming off the bench, which I kind of like. These guys are really cheap. Klingon 3,100. I'm getting a ton of him right now. Scoot, kind of the same thing. They project as pretty good to very good points per dollar plays, and it's allowing me to get up elsewhere. So I'm totally about those two guys. And then one other guy we didn't mention from Miami that I like as a GPP wild card is Jovic. So he
Okay.
he is like a prototypical GPP player. Like some games when he's got it going, he's gonna fill up the stat sheet and play a bunch. Some games he's not gonna be doing well and he's not gonna play a bunch. So kind of a wild card in that sense. On a slate like this though, in this matchup though, if he gets good run, he could put up a really nice score at 4,700. So just wanted to touch on that real quickly. But from Portland, it's really only Klingon and Henderson for me. Uh, Simons and Sharp a little bit, but under the field. Those guys aren't expensive, but I'm prioritizing like the Edwardses, Randalls, Kate Cunninghams of the world.
So one name I need to call out here from Yahoo. I am playing Alec Burks. He is the minimum $10. I couldn't find anybody else I wanted to go to at the small forward spot there. So that, producer Mike, is your weird play of the day because of the way these things work out. He has had
I knew there was one.
There is one. We had to go to another site. 18 minutes in the last game, 16 fantasy points. That was a remember me game against Utah. 24 minutes 2 games ago. These are both off the bench. 18 fantasy points against Golden State. Otherwise, he has had sporadic playing time at best. But with the way things have sort of shaken out, this is one of those. I hope he gets 15 minutes. I'd be doing cartwheels for 20 minutes. Okay, so
I'd like to see those cartwheels.
It's yes, I will become an internet sensation.
The proverbial cartwheel.
Yeah, perhaps I believe that's what they call mental gymnastics. There,
Yeah,
so,
I like that. It's a good one.
So so that I don't want to play him on DraftKings. I don't need to there, but this is what ended up coming into my lineups here on Yahoo. And people are, why do you play Yahoo? Why do you talk about it? Because it reminds me of the old days of fantasy sports, of daily fantasy. Hand build my lineup over there. I look at our projections and I, sort by point per dollar, and I look at our ownership and the boom bust and things like that. But it brings me back to those old days. So that's what I enjoy over there. Plus you get to play in a lot of 10, 20, 100-man type contests. And I find those are easier to like when you get a 1% score, you actually get a pretty good payout, right? Yeah, it's not big bucks, and you're not going to have a five-figure night hardly ever on Yahoo, but I've had a couple $1,000 nights. I usually get 1 or 2 each year between football or NBA. So and MLB. So I like it over there. That's why I continue to talk about it. All right, so we have 16 minutes left. Is there anything else you want to mention here about the NBA? I will see what questions we have. Fade of the day on FanDuel is our last question in chat.
Yeah, I don't think so. No, I think we kind of broke it down as detailed as we could.
All right. John Prince says, hey, Mac, is Yahoo DFS sharp? Yes and no. You need to be careful with the contests you're going in. When you want to sign up like a couple times throughout the day and they're 10 or 20 minutes and hope you get a mixture, but you're gonna get a lot of the regulars in that, like the super veteran badges. I think Mock Lovin plays over there. There are definitely some lobby bosses over there that are in every contest no matter what, but they pay less attention to this site than they do the others. I only play one lineup over there. Occasionally I'll play a couple, but I don't usually do MME unless there's going to be some overlay. So I'm really only focused on the 50-50s and those smaller contests. They're in every single one of them, but I've noticed that I can usually pretty much figure out what they're going to play or pretty close to it. And then I try to be just a little bit different in a couple of spots where I want to make a stand. Usually over the course of a season, it tends to work out for me. I've been on a horrendous losing streak. I've lost $1,000 there in the last 3 weeks. But you know, I think last year you have to calculate your own winnings and losings because they don't issue 1099s. But since I'm a CPA and I have to attest to my ethics exam, I have to go in and do all that BS. I think eyeballing it, I made about $7,000 over there this last year. So enough for me to keep doing it. So I think that's worthwhile. Oh, who is my nuke of the night? Well, the guy who's going to nuke my lineup, so definitely on Yahoo is going to be Alec Burks. The guy I think is the best. Who is the best play? It's hard to do a nuke on a slate like this per se. I think Jaron Duran is interesting on that. Denny Abdia, I guess a little bit, or Jovic. I do like
My nuke of the night
Jovic.
is easy Jaime Jaquez. That's quite a
Jaquez?
slate for
Okay.
me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Question here. Naz Reid or Jovic? I would play Naz Reid.
Yeah, I think Nasri projects better, and he's probably the better play on paper.
All right. Corey Shea says he was able to switch Gobert for Duran. So now he's new decision point. Guy we didn't mention. Quickly versus Anthony Simons.
Hoover, Simons,
Quickly.
Simons.
Emmanuel. Okay. Let's see what Simons. Simons says, what's Anthony been up to lately?
He's been really good lately. Orland's been on the upward trajectory.
Yeah, I would go Simons as well. He has quietly posted at least 30 fantasy points in his last 7 games. In that time, knock on wood, because he is healthy, he has played 35 or more minutes more often than not, which has us a little more excited for him than Quickly. Plus, he has access to 20 field goal attempts because he is like the first or second scoring option on the team. That is something that Quickly does not have. So I think it's pretty clear to go for Anthony in that. All right, I think that is going to do it. I think we're going to slide on out of here. Hit that like button. We appreciate all for joining us here. I'm going to go build out some of my lineups since I have not yet, and then I'm going to build out some more football lineups. I've got some team free money lineups in there for the Saturday night football. I'm going to drop the free article breaking down the Pittsburgh at Baltimore game. So you guys can check that out. Rank every single viable player in the player pool, as well as breaking down each position. It was a lot of fun writing that one today because this is the 3rd matchup we have between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. So should be a fun one. But with that, we're going to slide on out of here. Thank you to Underdog for being the presenting sponsor. Thank you to Stokastic for hooking that amazing link join promotion there with 11 different sites. You guys can follow Matt on Twitter at FantasyTipsMatt. You can find me at EMac DFS. And of course, it is Stokastic _CON. With that, gamers, good luck.